So previously on this channel, I've discussed a bit about depression, clinical depression. Something I've been quite open about. It's something I've been through um, intermittently throughout my life, um, and it's something that's quite common. That's all the more reason why there shouldn't be a stigma because it's not that rare. I don't know what the statistics are precisely, but I think it's about 1 in 4 people, 1 in 5, something along that sort of ratio has been through clinical depression. So that's why I talk about it, or why I have spoken about it. But today I want to talk about an issue that I think is very closely related, and that's stress. The two aren't one and the same. You could be stressed without being clinically depressed. Um, but certainly, I would say most people who are clinically depressed, stress has been some component in that. Because stress, by definition, creates all sorts of problems. It creates anxiety, it creates uncertainty, it creates, well, not so much uncertainty, but certainly anxiety and high blood pressure, and a lot of the things that can be associated with depression as well. So I think there's definitely a lot of overlap between these two issues, stress and depression. So I've spoken about depression. I want to speak about stress here. Um, let's face it, the modern world can be very stressful. It sounds exceedingly obvious, but what do we really mean by that? Because no two people have exactly the same day, right? People have different jobs. They come from different backgrounds, different locations. But I just think I came across actually a study recently. I didn't look at it in great detail. It was just briefly referenced in a newspaper report. And to be honest, I don't even remember which newspaper it was. But it mentioned something that in the 1970s, there was an average of 20 incidents a day or 20 episodes a day for the average man. Now, what this means is just 20 things happened in a day. So, for example, you would wake up, you would get breakfast, go to work, then various things happening in the job, come home, I don't know, maybe turn on the television, get dinner, and anyway, it was the average day was divided up into 20 episodes. Now, apparently, it's over 30. Um, in other words, the average day is just more cluttered than it was in the past. Like I said, I didn't look into the details of this report, and it probably doesn't represent the whole. I mean, Um, we could look at it from another point of view that labour laws were less stringent in the past and maybe people worked longer or not, depending on the job. But I think there's probably truth in that. Certainly, for all the faults of the past, and we should never sort of sugarcoat the past, but for all its faults, there were less distractions in some way. There was no social media, there was no fewer technical stresses from things like smartphones and computers breaking down or not working, or issues around that. Probably there were technical stresses in other ways. And it's one of these sort of ironies about human development that whenever we don't have something, we want it. And whenever we have it, we say, oh, we were better off without it. So, for example, in the past, um, probably a lot of things that were cumbersome and took longer and broke down, people would have said, "Oh, why can't this be quicker? Why can't this be more developed?" And then those things did get quicker and more developed, but they came with other problems. So, for example, in the past, you would have had a literal filing system with literal paper files. Now it's all computerized, but actually, both can cause issues. The old filing system, just as a loose example, that would be far, far more man hours and if you lost something, that could be a big problem. But a physical filing cabinet doesn't necessarily break down, and there's a little mechanism on it does. If a computer crashes, you're in a very bad way. So I don't think we should sugarcoat the past, but I also think there are issues in the world today that weren't around in the past. Computer viruses goes without saying. That's something that just by definition did not exist in the past. Um, the issues around social media did not exist in the past. Having said that, I do feel that social media can be a little bit scapegoated sometimes for the behavior of people. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and so on that cause the negative behavior in people. I think a lot of that is, we as human beings have to take responsibility. If someone's going to act like, to use an American word, a jerk online, that's on them. I think social media is a little bit scapegoated sometimes, because of the behavior of those who use it. Um, so, stress can be found in many areas. Just ask my friend. Um, I must admit, I'm not the calmest person in the world. I, I wouldn't say I'm a stress head. I don't get stressed super easily, but my stress levels are more than I would like them to be. Um, I mean, just to give this week as a sort of example. So, as we know, at the end of the week, if you're a British citizen, we have a very big historic event coming up, the coronation of Charles III. Now, I'm someone who really appreciates history, and I'm a monarchist, and so naturally, that's an event I want to see. Now, lo and behold, our TV satellite is down. It just basically the satellite's too old, so that's stressing me out because I'm thinking, well, I'm going to miss this historic event. This is something I've looked forward to seeing. It's a historic event. It won't happen for at least another 20 years. Yeah, I'm stressed about it. Now, I've worked out there may be a way that I can move this TV and connect it to the old satellite. I think there may be some mechanism. I had a little bit of an argument with my dad yesterday about this because he was trying to sort out the problem and he kind of thought I was blaming him for it and I wasn't. And yeah, yada, yada, yada. The point is, it's stressful. And I'm annoyed about it. And this is the one thing I did not want to happen. There is some options to that. I can either do this TV option where I could connect my TV as opposed to the family TV to the old satellite, and it may work. Or there's live streams on some YouTube channels. By the way, if anyone has any suggestions about that, if you know any channel is doing a live stream, please let me know. So yeah, that was one thing. Today, someone bought something from me on eBay, so I need to deliver that to her so she gets it promptly. I'm not really stressed about that. It won't be any problem. I've done it a number of times, but it's just I'm keen to get it posted, and I will after I upload this video. And it's just for my own peace of mind. Will it reach my customer? Because you want to keep a good standing if you're a seller. I'm more a buyer than a seller, but I have sold a number of items. I want to go to the cinema later. I want to see that new Chris Pine film, Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't actually follow Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, but to be honest, it's just a bit of escapism. That's all. It looks quite entertaining, and that's really the only reason. Now, my local cinema is a nice cinema. It's a big multiplex. It's comfortable, and actually the prices are reasonable compared to other chains. But irritatingly, they don't put the prices on the website. And so the customer kind of has to guess because not every film is the same price. Some of them are 7.99, some of them are 5.99. That's irritating because when I'm trying to work out money and I have to buy groceries today as well, I have to just decipher what is it. And it's just so inexplicable that they won't put the price on the website. Um, so today's, I guess it's fair to say, a little bit stressful, even though the cinema thing is for the leisure. It's something I want to do and I want it to be smooth. The last time I went to the cinema, some teenagers at the back would not shut up. They were laughing the whole way throughout. Very irritating. I saw that film 65 with Adam Driver. Very good movie, actually. It was a dinosaur film that wasn't in the Jurassic series. Today, if that happens, I'm not going to keep quiet. I'm going to go in and basically tell them to shut up in more diplomatic language. But if that happens, I'm not going to have another film ruined. Um, this is what I'm talking about. I think, it's so, so, so vital that we make time for ourselves. It's so, so, so vital that we are not always pandering to other people's needs. I mean, I'm not saying be selfish. I'm not saying that for a second. In fact, I think, I've always been big on etiquette, so getting back to people. And by the way, incidentally, one of my subscribers, and I think he knows the situation. He sent me a lengthy message on Facebook, and I just didn't manage to get back to that. So, Ben, if you're watching, I'm not snubbing you, mate. I'm just genuinely busy because with my parents moving back, there's just so much to sort out. So, but anyway, the point I'm making there is I do value etiquette. So when someone contacts me, I always want to get back to them. But sometimes we are genuinely busy, and I like to be treated how I expect others, yeah, how I treat others. So that's all, to me, etiquette is an important thing. So dating sites do my head in. I've spoken about them a few times. I'm not going to make this video about dating sites, but certainly they don't help the stress. That's why I'm deliberately stepping back a little bit from them, because I guarantee they will drive you crazy if you let them. Um, so there is a lot of components in the modern world. I think, and this isn't said enough, I think sometimes it is other people's behavior. Now, this is not to say we should just blame all our problems on other people, but I do feel that sometimes situations are made unnecessarily stressful when they could be simplified. So that issue I mentioned about the cinema website, Empire Cinemas, why don't they just put the price on the website? I mean, to me, what are the key pieces of information a customer needs? The times of the showings, what is showing, and the prices. To me, those are the three main things. I mean, have a thing up about card payment only since the pandemic, fine. But the three most important things to me, okay, that's important. But what films are showing, what times they are showing, and the price. So why do they leave out the price? It's just irritating because it's just to me a common sense deficit. Like, this is such an obvious thing. Why do you leave it off? It's just irritating to someone who has designed that website, has made that decision. And people might think I'm, whining a little bit about this, but when money isn't exactly on your side, every penny counts. So it does matter. Um, I just feel, there are things out there that are unnecessarily stressful. And it would just help so much if companies would spend a little bit of time thinking about, instead of how can we improve our profits, how can we make the customer experience smoother? And I think too many don't. The railways are notorious for this. I mean, traveling in this country today, um, it's a joke. And I think the railway companies, they keep saying we're going through this massive overhaul of the system, but and then there's strikes, of course. But I think they have a bad attitude to customers. I remember a few years back, I was on a Sunderland to London train. It was the Grand Central, and it actually broke down outside Peterborough. It just broke down, burned out engine or something. Okay, so it was old rolling stock, but we got off. And the most frustrating thing is the lack of information. Now, the issue here is not about the inconvenience of having to change train, which is an inconvenience. It's a question of not being given information. And then the people, behind the counter, they're under stress and they probably haven't got the information. But really, at this point, when this sort of thing happens regularly, the big railway companies should use the common sense and the practicality of saying, okay, let's have a contingency plan in place. When one of our trains breaks down, we're going to immediately put up bus replacements, not make people wait for 2 hours for those bus replacements. You know, find out exactly what is going to be the replacement and tell them as soon as possible. I'm not saying in the first 10 minutes, but at least in the first half hour. I mean, really, there is no excuse for messing people around for 2 hours, as was the case in that situation. I think if people have the information, they can deal with delays, they can deal with disruption. I think people are reasonable, and I think actually most people are quite patient as long as they have the information. And this is something that railway companies just they are quite arrogant. I think they don't understand. I mean, I would love the CEOs of these companies. to be on the trains themselves when this happened, to actually have first-hand experience of what it's like. I think they're living in a bubble. I don't think they really understand how frustrated customers can be. That's a big factor in terms of stress. And then, I mentioned often stress is brought about by people. Well, one of the most glaringly obvious things in recent years has been the actions of eco extremists. Now, I've not been shy about saying I have nothing but contempt for the likes of Just Stop Oil, Insulate Britain, and Extinction Rebellion. And one of the main reasons for that is they're willfully and knowingly and deliberately trying to stress out the public. I think that's despicable. I think it's callous. I think it lacks compassion. I think it lacks empathy. For all their preaching about wanting to help the future generation and save the planet, they have an utter contempt and disregard for the current generation. They don't care how much inconvenience they cause. They don't care that people are missing medical appointments. Maybe someone hasn't seen a loved one for months. Hell, someone like me, I could be in a long distance relationship. I could be meeting my date at an airport, and they mess with my life by holding that up. Um, I think it's disgusting actually. So I absolutely favor a hardline approach to them. I think they are callous idiots, and I've no respect for them. And no, they have not generated a debate. All they've done is generate anger about their tactics. So I really don't understand how someone could knowingly go out of the way to hurt the public like that. It's kind of disgusting. Um, and I hope they fall hard on their face, to be quite honest, because I think they have just, hmm, you can see it bothers me. Uh, Anyway, I'm going to close this up. I don't intend this video to sound like a rant. I just think it's important to vocalize these things. I'm someone who really believes in talking about things. I don't believe in caging things up. I've never been introverted in that way. For example, if someone asks how I am, I'm not the sort of person to dismiss it and say, I'm fine, I'm fine. If I'm not fine, I will say I'm not great, or I'll tell them what the issue is. Maybe not the full details, but I just don't believe in lying about that. So, for me, I have to break things down a little bit. I have to say, okay, I'm going to get my letter delivered to my customer. It's going to get there. It always has. I've never had someone complain and say this hasn't arrived. In my experience, the Royal Mail's pretty reliable. I've never had a major problem with them. Um, or maybe one out of 50 times. Like the vast majority of the time they have been reliable. Um, okay, that's first thing ticked off. The cinema, well, I know the time, and I know it's either going to be 5.99 or 7.99. I can afford the higher cost, so that's that. It'll be a bit of escapism, and hopefully it'll be an enjoyable movie. That's that. The coronation. Well, I have two options. I can transfer this TV downstairs, and hopefully there'll be a connection, or less preferable option, I'll have the live stream on my laptop. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. So I break it all down. Things work out. Some people get more stressed than others. I don't know if anyone has seen, if you're watching up to this point, the cartoon Stressed Eric. It was a British animated adult cartoon from the late 90s, early 2000s, and it was basically this average guy in London, Eric, who had everything stacked up against him in every episode. It's quite creative and witty actually, quite a funny show, but you can still find it on YouTube actually if you type in Stressed Eric. So yeah, the modern world is stressful, but I'm going to close with this thought. No matter how much things are winding you up, I think for the sake of our mental health, it's so, so, so important to find some time. Now, I appreciate time's not on everyone's side, but even if it means 10 minutes of really trying to get into a place of relative peace in our mind, it's so vital. Getting back to basics. I've said this before. Go for a walk without your smartphone. Bring your keys, but just leave the smartphone. Go for a walk in the fresh air, in the real world. Um, that sort of thing could be very beneficial in terms of mental health. And also realize that no matter how much seems to be piling up at once, most things sort themselves out sooner or later. And I totally get it. Some things are immensely frustrating, but I think depression starts to come in when everything comes together. Whenever I've had my worst point of depression, it's always been when things have come together. So, so, so important to break things down. Very important. Okay, people, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you have a stress free day. And put yourself first. Don't be selfish, but put your mental health first. Thanks for watching.